Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of our interview with Daniel. First off, I just want to apologize for the abrupt cutoff. There's something to do with audio yet again, but we have sorted quite a bit of that out, and it shouldn't be a problem going forward at all. It was something really bizarre, to be honest with you. But here's part 2 of that interview with Daniel. We picked up, he was just discussing kind of like reconnecting with an old friend, or if he had after kind of exploring his faith more, and that was also Juliet, so I apologize for her. Anyhow, part 2 of Daniel. We hope you enjoy as much as we enjoyed talking to Daniel. All right, and welcome back. There was a little technical audio difficulties there, but it's all sorted out now. So this is going to be part 2 of our interview with Daniel on Three Person Circle, where we take 3 people and we put them in a circle and chat.
Yeah, I think leaving off, we're talking about being young and telling your friends where you want to go and what you want to do. And I guess you just talked about 2 paths, you know, like your one friend that went well, and I guess you're about to get into another like version of like how telling them or a friend your new Christianity about how they reacted.
Yeah, come to think of it, like in that instance, it was I think it was more so so he was aware that I was doing like getting back into the faith, but there was an incident where a very close friend of his committed suicide, and I was the first person to go visit, and just to be a friend, but whether it was like the appropriate time or not, like before I left, because he had asked me to like pray over the house because he was still living in it where he found his friend. I did it, but I don't know if he received it well, and I haven't heard from him in like 2 years, and it's been tough.
Recently?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it's been tough for sure.
Were you like really tight with this person?
I've known him since kindergarten.
And now you guys aren't friends at all?
I don't know what we are. I haven't heard from him in like 2 years.
That was like, again, like I said, I told most of the people that I loved and they reacted but that was sort of my fear, and it's actually something I'm still kind of getting over. The big step for me was telling my friends. The next step is telling people publicly that may not know me, you know? I think that is the next fear that I'm having. I've started to do it a little bit at work,
right,
which has gone over like, again, the best part about work is that you don't have any friends with people at work, you know?
And they're also not allowed to comment.
They're not allowed to comment. Exactly.
You'd be surprised, man.
But
I'll tell you about that after.
But yeah, it's interesting because I find like, and maybe this is just the type of people that I run into, but you know, there's people that are around me that like openly mock Christianity, and sometimes I sit there, and again, I won't ever say anything, because to me, a volatile conversation doesn't accomplish anything, and if anything, it goes, well, like, look how this guy reacted anyway, he calls himself Christian, right? But I find it really funny sometimes that it's okay to do or react or say something like that about those topics when it doesn't get brought up at all. You know, there's no, why is it cannon fodder for no reason? Does it make any sense? Like,
kind of like,
we'll be sitting out of nowhere and be like, you know who's weird? Those Christians.
Yeah, you're like, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. I find there's a lot of like hypocrisy in people, like naturally, and it's fine because we all do. Like, I know I say things that are like complete reverse of what I've done or said something else,
right,
about something else. I just find it's very interesting that some people get very like heated and they'll say things about religion that if you were to say it about anything other than religion, there would be like canceled, riots in the street, how dare you. But then they can run their mouth about it. And again, this is coming from someone, I don't have a skin in the game of like, yo, how dare you mock the Christians. I'm just sitting there like, I just find it interesting how someone could say something negative about religion and then also like be like, hey, don't say this about what I think, and I'm like,
Right.
well, it's all on the same level of like
Yeah. Give what you can take, right? Like if you can't, don't dish it if you can't take the heat.
Absolutely.
Stay out the kitchen. Is that the word?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
Stay
saying?
out of the kitchen. You can't take the
Right?
heat. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Like on that, like, it's funny because, so I work at a butcher shop.
Cool.
Here in North Van.
That's
Our
who's gonna
family
supply
owns it.
the meat.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
What?
I'll be buying the meat
Yeah,
for the
Sweet.
individual.
But I'll always be asked because we're known as my dad's sons. It's
Mhm.
like, how you doing? Are you done school? What are you doing now? It's always like that. And so I'm gonna be honest, like I'll tell them straight up and you get like a plethora of reactions
Really?
of like really? Like I'm a Christian. Like I didn't know that about you. Da-da-da. And then it goes into like a cool little chit chat. And then some people will be like, oh, okay, nice. And it's just kind of like, hey, I said it. You asked.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So in those circumstances, like it's kind of cool to see. But then when I was working at the clinic, that was tough because as soon as they got a whiff that I was like pastor, like that was my nickname.
The pastor.
Yeah, like
What?
to get into the at the clinic, there's on the computers, it's the system that gets you all the patients and the scheduling of appointments and whatnot, and you have a login, and usually it's your initials, and so mine would be DS, but my first day was DSP, and I was wondering like, what is? I didn't even question. I thought the P meant like parole.
Right.
Because they were like, after 3 months, we're going to talk about this, like you're on parole, and then if you want to keep going, we'll keep you. And then like 6 months later, my boss was like, do you ever like wonder why like there's a P in your name? I was like, no. He was like, it's pastor. I'm like, okay.
What?
She turned out to be Catholic, but like there would be moments, man, like where they would take it to the edge. I remember working, great guy, actually one of my favorite guys I worked with, but blatant LGBTQ, like fiery, one of like the fieriest I've ever
okay.
met.
Yeah.
And he would push as far as he could go, like
With you.
with me, yeah,
What, like,
relating
what
to
would
like
he-
my faith. Yeah.
Really?
Just
Like, what would he do?
just like the most like yeah, like just sexual innuendos. That's like the right, and like I can take that. I grew
Yeah,
up around
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
But like it's like oh come on, pastor, like
Say
tell me,
something.
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
Poking
Right?
at it.
And
Yeah.
So, and I never took it as malicious from him just because I enjoyed working from him. But some days you're just like, and then if someone else hops on there, you're just like, all right, guys, like
No.
let's chill out.
I don't know. I feel like to me, just hearing that, I just instantly go to like someone has insecurities if they like have to come at you.
Yeah.
So like you being a pastor, why would they have to come after you for that unless there's something that like makes them feel uncomfortable? And I'm sure a lot of people would go to, oh well, the church hates the gays or the LGBTQ or something. But I sit there and I go, yeah, but if you're a part of that community, you should understand that people have different views and you can accept them and
Right.
and all that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that's interesting. It's a really interesting thing to hear you say that because I don't know what the word to describe it would be, but it's this like again this hypocrisy of we gotta love everyone and be a certain way, but except this one person, like we're gonna pick on you and we're gonna do all this stuff, and it's like, but you're also a person, so like your whole ethos of everyone should be the same. But that has nothing to do with the LGBTQ. Just for the listeners that are thinking, where am I going with this? It's more just
Yeah,
in general.
just in
People
general.
do that always, right?
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure, man. So yeah, it was an interesting experience, and yeah, I just want to reiterate, I never felt the malicious intent, but kind of to go off your point, if it were flipped,
It would have been very
how would that go,
yeah.
right?
So I got to ask you then. This is like for both of you. You're obviously farther along than Dax is. Do you guys feel like there's a lot of like, not say pressure, but do you feel like there's a lot of outside like skepticism or maybe like people laugh when you declare your faith or proclaim your faith?
Definitely, man. I was just looking at a verse, and like Jesus says in like the book of Matthew, like you're gonna be hated by everyone because of me. So like there's this expectation, right? Like you can be on guard, sure, but at the end of the day, like if you ever come across some form of skepticism or someone push back or whatnot, like it's never a, hey, maybe you asked me a good question and there's some things in my faith that I need to still work out, right? But that's not a bad thing. Kind of like what you're saying, if someone asked me if that you're the same 10 years ago, and they said yeah, you'd be sad, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? If you feel like you've hit a point in your life where you feel like you don't need to grow or anything, then that there's something wrong. Because we're always growing, we're always changing as people, we're experiencing things, we're learning, and that doesn't stop until we're in the ground, right?
It's funny you saying that. As you say that, it made me just have this really weird click of the introspective of like, religion is growing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said there, like if I pose some question to you that there's no answer to because I quote unquote stumped you, that pushes you to figure that out and grow as a person to answer said question, which is really, again, going back to what we said, like it's about growing and changing.
It's
right?
always about growing, right? And having the humility to accept that.
Absolutely.
I think like early on, if I didn't know what to say to you, or I put a lot of pressure on myself, and be skeptic of myself, like, okay, like if I don't answer this correctly, like, am I a real Christian? Like,
right.
But that, like, you kind of take a step back and it's like, this isn't the defining factor of that. Like, you're still learning, you're still.
Yeah, and even when I think of like all the priests that I know growing up, like they were never like these people. Well, I think maybe at the time, maybe some of them were like this person that was like, you must do this way, but they were more just people kind of like making you inquisitive of things. Like the best teacher, Mr. Gross.
For sure.
I always thought we had this one teacher. I always thought religion was the bunkest thing in school. I was like, what is this? Because it was always just like the same monotony of anyone that went to anything religious knows the monotony of the schooling, right? But this dude was the only one that like actually like posed questions to you that weren't just like the generic like, what is God? And then you're like, what? Stop asking that. They'd actually like push you to learn things, which is the point.
Because there is more than meets the eye. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so, like, be curious. Like, in your faith, that's like the most beautiful thing is to be curious. Like, take in what you can. And those are the best teachers of like, because no one's kind of goes back to what I was saying. Like, if someone tells you to believe something, like you're not gonna want to believe that.
Yeah.
But like, if you tell me why, and like ask me some questions that make me think about it, then now you're opening a door that was kept closed because you told me to like get out of my room. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
keep
absolutely.
out. But it's like, oh, what did you say? Oh, like you asked me that? I'll open a little more. Oh, a little more? Okay.
Your voice sounds good.
Yeah. What do you think, Dax? How do you feel?
For me, it's funny hearing your side of the answer, because for me, I guess in a sense, there's no pressure because I'm so new. I tell people, if anyone asks, I have the exact same questions that someone like Derek might have.
Yeah.
I might just be farther along that I know for sure that this is what I want to believe, but the same questions are still prevalent.
Yeah.
So when someone asks me or think there's pressure on me to have an answer a certain way or present myself as a Christian, I straight up tell them, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. I tell Daniel all the time, a big thing, I think a big piece that I'm missing is community. Because I think growth in anything is great, self-growth in anything, but how many people do you know that are like truly, truly successful in growth on their own? Yeah. The most success and the most growth that you find in anything you do, whether it's sports, whether it's art, whether it's friendship, whether it's math, whether it's even atheism, it's done in a community. You need people around you telling you the same things and helping you grow, helping you ask questions, pushing back, because if there's no presence of that, then you're stuck where you're at, where it's basically your own thoughts and your own interpretation of things, right? It's not just, again, Christianity in general. So for me, I have no pressure my pressure was more, and I guess this is where I need to grow, and I know I've identified it, is how will people react when I've told them that this is the path I want to pursue, you know? Like the questions I have, like, obviously my family's not an issue because my family's deeply Christian, but for example, like my friends that I've had, and we've talked about that already, or maybe like the friends of friends, you know, like the people that you hang out with, that you introduce me to, and they find out, you know, or Sarah's family and Sarah's family's friends. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So how does it feel for you doing this then? Because this is a very, like, irregardless of the whole idea of, like, yeah, like, it's not going out to thousands of people to listen to, you're still putting out there, like, your faith.
I think so, but I've kind of looked at it this way. The people that are going to listen to this, at least from a tertiary perspective or a direct perspective, already know who I am. And if me talking about this stuff changes their perception of who I am, then what was our relationship anyway?
Right. So, okay, fair, very fair. But does it make you feel, like, good speaking out like that?
I'm not gonna lie, it makes me feel a little nervous, but
yeah.
I don't feel like I should not be saying this.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think part of that is growth also, and it's also a lot easier when you're doing this through a microphone. You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you don't have to do it face to face. But again, at the same time, it doesn't really change who I am or who I've always been to these people. It just might change, and I think you've definitely noticed it. Haven't smoked weed in
Ages.
a long time, right? Like, there's been things that have kind of changed up a little bit. When was the last time you really saw me get really drunk?
Way longer than the last time you smoked weed.
Yeah.
It's been ages.
So it's been there's been like subtle things that I've kind of done to try to move forward with it a little bit more. You know what I mean?
This is my picture with Dax. It says the back of a cab just passed out.
Yeah.
Just for everyone, it's a picture of me and Dax in the back of a cab just
That was
passed
in
out on the shoulder.
2018.
2018, yeah.
Jeez.
It's been a long time.
But yeah. So I don't know. I kind of put like feelers out there because it's funny because I haven't changed any part of my personality, but I just haven't been doing a lot of things that. But I don't think people have like said anything differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think just in general, like, this is to comment on your boy's nerves just over the podcast. I don't know if you have nerves, but, like, I always feel like there's this weird thing of, like, what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, man, what if I said this? And I, like, literally say the dumbest crap all the time. And even the people listening always, even in general, like, let's say you're Joe Rogan's podcast, or the biggest podcast in the world.
Right.
If you're on for an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, and people are listening to you in your ear, I don't think they're like writing down word for word everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And I actually believe this about all of media in general, is there's this like high stress of what I put out there, everyone's gonna judge and think all this stuff of.
For sure.
But the reality of it is, it's so much more like over their head. Like, what's Instagram? Imagine you get so fit and you're like sitting there, you're doing all these flexing poses in the mirror. Finally, after 50 pictures, you got the one of like the tricep pop and the abs are looking great. And then you're like, yeah, and then you've posted and all these people like it, and you got, I don't know, for me, 100 likes would have been crazy because I didn't have that many friends. I wasn't like an Instagram. Anyhow, but you have this like thing, you're like, oh wow, all these people liked what I did. But really, they're just kind of like this.
Yeah.
When they're listening, it's just kind of like, okay, and then they might miss them for 3 minutes and leave or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's always, I find, like, everything you do, there's this, like, in your own head, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is everything that comes out is kind of more bland and dull.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it's really cool, honestly. Like I said, I'm not a believer in the Bible and all that stuff for, like, the nature of the story of it all and how it flows. I do strongly believe in the nature of like good, and there is like an all creator and all that stuff, but I find it very cool for you to be a pastor and hear how you feel about it, and then always with Dax just being around it. I appreciate hearing that stuff because I think it's sad that people like they don't have any belief. Let's go to spirituality. Let's call religion and spirituality the same thing of just this belief in a like something more.
Yeah.
I always think it's so sad when people either they don't believe in anything or they just don't even have a thought. Like it's less than not believing. They're just kind of like, yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You don't believe in anything?
Yeah, man. Or they kind of deflect. So I was listening to, again, one of my favorite podcasts called The Holy Post.
Okay.
And they, it's just like theologians and, do you remember VeggieTales?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the creator of
VeggieTales.
VeggieTales is the host.
Okay.
And he brings in like these two other people, theologians, and they're kind of talking about these, what do you call it? Death cafes.
Oh.
And it's not where you die, it's
Right.
where people to go to cafes and they talk about death. Because nowadays we don't talk about death, right? Like it's a scary, you don't think about death.
Talk about it all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah, absolutely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but in
no, people
general,
don't.
we
It's
don't.
culturally,
because
no.
It's just something you don't really bring up. And a lot of the time people don't really want to confront their own, how finite we are.
Yeah.
Right, and so it just kind of goes to that point. Like we can easily coast through life. Like I don't need to think about death, or like what is life? Like what is the point of all this? Like what is good and evil? Right? Like you can easily go.
You
down
can just
route, right? And but it's just like
That's interesting you say that. I have so many strong feelings on death. Like for example, I go back to the Egyptians and I think all ancient cultures. So like the cultures like way the hell back, they all believed in the afterlife and they all celebrated it in some degree.
Yeah.
And then you have in Mexico what is it? Dias de Muertos or whatever, like the Day of the Dead. And what is that? It's like celebrating all the dead.
Yeah.
And for some reason we fear death.
Yeah.
And that sucks
Yeah.
because so I was at a funeral on Saturday for one of my best friend Gabe's grandmother.
Mm.
Rest in peace, Mrs. Epp. She was an amazing lady.
Mm-hmm.
She was awesome. She was always this little like Chinese grandma that would always buy us pizza and come in when we'd all be like little kids and be like, "Oh, hello, how are you doing?"
Right.
So, and it was weird. Not like it wasn't weird. It wasn't weird. I shouldn't use that word. It was just like being at a funeral, seeing everyone so sad, and then my dad had passed away August 7th, 2021.
right.
And within that, when he passed, it was all sad. So I've seen like the sadness of it all. I felt the sadness of it. And one thing I found weird is no one really talked about my dad dying. And then even within Gabe's grandmother, it's not that I was like intimately talking to everyone, but there was almost like this thing of like no one really wanted to talk about the fact that Gabe's grandma had died.
For sure.
And it's sad
Yeah.
because it's like,
It's such a part. It's a part of our life. Dax, what do you think about that? Like,
yeah.
Like the idea of that.
Death to me is interesting because it shaped like a pretty large event in my life that I think set me on the path that I was on for a long time, and I couldn't talk about it for a really long time.
Yeah.
I'd probably say even now that I'm a lot more open to talking about it, and for people that don't know, my brother went missing 13 years ago, and I don't want to get too into it because I want to respect my parents' privacy as well, but things were left, and my close friends know, but things were left to the close family, where my thoughts are that he's basically been dead now for 13 years. And I couldn't talk about it, honestly, for years. Like I would, not that it would make me sad, it was weird. Like I just was like, you know what, it happened, I don't need to talk about it ever. But I also think I did myself a disservice because I never dealt with the grief aspect of it. And it also made me resentful that no one else would acknowledge that he was gone except for me.
Right.
Like everyone acknowledged that like he's coming back.
Mm.
So there was this weird thing where I couldn't come to terms with like what I wanted to come to terms with, and I hinged it on everybody else. And when it finally like settled with me and I was able to talk about it, I have this really weird relationship with it because I don't necessarily get sad or get uncomfortable with the discussion of death. I get uncomfortable with other people's reaction to the discussion of death because I don't know how
Interesting.
they're going to react,
Oh.
whether they're open to talking about it, and a lot of people aren't. Like a lot of people really aren't open to talking about it.
They don't have an answer. Like,
Yeah.
I actually think that's one thing when my dad passed was the amount of people they'd come up and say, I'm sorry. And that's one thing I've sworn to never do is when someone dies, I will never say I'm sorry. And it's not out of, you don't like hate people for it because they're not like trying to be malicious. They're not like, I'm sorry. Or like that. They're just like, they're saying what they can like familiarize thinking what works. But it's just one of these things like, people don't deal with death, and it's not in a way of like, oh, they don't deal with it well because they're not tough. It's like they just don't have, generally people don't have to deal with death, at least around here. So when you have to confront someone that's dealt with death, there's people that are just like deer in the headlights. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, or oh, it'll be better. And you're like, you don't hate them, but you kind of like
it's like
it
sad,
upsets
right?
you,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, it is sad to like see those like the reactions of that.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a natural thing, to be honest with you. And I think, like, from a young age, we're also taught to not even fear it, really, but how often do you see, like, in movies or even with really young children that lose family members, like, how often are they actually, like, set to deal with something like this, you know? You know, like, there's, like, that age-old, like, movie trope or TV trope where like the hamster dies, and like instead of telling them that like the hamster dies, like the parent replaces the hamster, right? So like even like from a gag standpoint, like it's kind of ingrained in a society, but I don't know, like I think it's such an interesting thing because we're so gung-ho about talking birth. Like Derek obviously had a kid recently. Josh and I have a godson that was born like 2 months ago, right? And there's so much discussion about like them being born, but guarantee you like that attention's not gonna be the same for when they die. Like there's gonna be the mourning, but I don't think we'll sit around going talking about like, hey, like this guy. But like to be honest, like, and again, maybe I'm being too bold, but like you and I have had some pretty cool conversations about your dad. And like your dad dying, you know. But I don't think that that's natural for everybody. It's always like, I'm sorry for your loss, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really coy about talking about it, to be honest with you. For me, it's easier to talk about it than just like do nothing about it.
For sure.
Shout out, Dad. I love you. Wish you were here.
Probably starting. Maybe there's a lot of really good point guards, but he's probably on like the rec team, Capu rec team in heaven.
Yeah, Pat DeLeon was like, your dad was the best 3-point shooter I ever met. I was like, what? He was like 16. He played with you. He was like, yeah. I was like, what?
Yeah, Pat DeLeon played with his dad and his brother.
Yeah, my
Cap
dad,
Yeah.
dude, my dad was like a combo of John Stockton and Steve Nash, but like the amateur North Shore version of that.
Dude, at the Cap Rec League.
Yeah.
Dude, the best teams are always the older Caucasian teams.
Oh yeah.
I think they're called I don't know.
What about the Clams? Did you ever play them?
No.
There was the Clams, and I remember my dad always come up and be like, the goddamn Clams. Beat us again."
It was always like they're above 50, like beer belly, but not. I think they were all ex-college players at some point. Like, but you'd never think. And then like the First Nations teams that would just
they go
murk
hard.
everyone.
They go
in the
hard.
Cap Rec League.
Speaking of basketball, though, this guy didn't know how good Pat DeLeon was, and so he played him one-on-one one day.
He almost turned my ankle. No, he broke them twice, but luckily they were just so broken.
He's so
already.
unassuming, right?
He's very like. He's jelly. He's blissful on there. I actually learned a few like moves from watching him.
This guy's
He was,
so
like, the
fast,
coolest.
man. I'm
He was
telling you
fun
right
to
now,
watch, man.
you gotta watch him play. You gotta play him basketball one day. So we had a Sunday run one day, like just like really crappy
Yeah,
basketball.
we used to hoop, me, him, and Carrie, and then Carrie hurt his back.
Oh,
So it's just me and him.
Hey man, we're getting old, dude.
Yeah.
It's, these injuries ain't no joke.
No, I messed up my ankle pretty bad at soccer. It's all purple and blue right now. It's brutal.
I had to wear Achilles 2 years ago. Man, so.
Oh, you're back though, hey?
Yeah. At it.
That's one thing I gotta say it's incredible how I tore my ACL 13 years ago, maybe even more now. They at the time told me I could come back, but it was most likely unlikely, and I was like, F that. And now like Achilles was literally if ACL back then was the like you're screwed, Achilles was like you might as well not even find a job. Like it was so bad.
Disability for life.
I know, quite. That's amazing though. Did it just grow back on?
Yeah, dude. Unreal.
What?
Yeah, it was like a miracle, to be honest with you. I didn't need surgery. I called every person who I knew some form of health care, and they all said you're gonna get surgery. I called Dax, I called my doctor, I called another like
You went to a
king guy.
physio?
Went to physio. I was fully detached when I was at the doctor for an emergency, and then 2 weeks later I go back and he's all right, you're good. I was like, I'm like getting ready, like oh my gosh, I'm gonna get surgery.
Because I had
surgery before. Like,
I had surgery.
because he had surgery on his arm.
I had surgery. No, I'm not showing you. A week apart.
Yeah. So
Like-
we showed up to our friend's wedding.
There's a photo of me too up there. There's another photo. I don't know who has it.
I don't know.
But there's a photo
You
of
two all
Dan-
get pulled out.
No.
I was on Sony Painkillers,
Yeah.
and he was
I was best man.
best man. So he was on a little like Achilles scooter.
Roller
and I had-
coaster.
I'm sure the bride loved that.
She was so
Eh?
pissed off. She was so angry. I was like, hey, if you need any help for the wedding. She's like, what are you going to help? How are you going to help at all? I'm like, I'm sorry, man.
So my fault.
It's not my fault.
Yeah, the Achilles just reattaches itself, which now is science. It happens, but I want to know the first dude that was like,
Don't give me some.
no, it'll reattach itself, and literally
Is it
every-
actually? Is there science behind that?
Yeah. What they do is they put you in a boot and they crank it so that
Yeah,
you have
so
like as
you're-
much plantar flexion as you can.
Yeah.
So
That's what
for
they
the people, so like toe pointed,
Yeah,
and they just
exactly.
put you in the boot, and over the course of like 3 months, the
Reattaches.
Achilles just loosens up and reattaches to the calf.
So how many people went through that? Like, because Achilles surgery is brutal.
And your Achilles for the rest of your life, you have this like deformed calf that's shorter than the other one. It's messed up. Yeah, that's what I mean. Who was like this? Everyone like you was like, do it, and then some guy was like, no, it'll just reattach itself. And they're like, no, it won't. Like up until that point, it had never happened. 3 months later, and he's just like, what did I tell you?
Yeah, because when I went back to the emergency 2 weeks after the injury, yeah. Looking at a picture of me and Dax at the wedding.
With
and
the
shit.
damage.
But because I had called Dax and my doctor, and they're like, you're going to have to get surgery for sure. And then he's like, all right, you're good. I was like, no surgery? It's like, yeah. I was like, but it was clean cut, right? He's like, yeah. And I was like, so why are you not giving me surgery? And he's like, honestly, at this point, dude, I'm just going to be giving you stitches. Like, it's not going to make a difference. It's already, because he like squeezed it and he saw the
twitch.
and he's all right, it's there.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's
Good for you,
crazy.
man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, my buddy Elliot, he had the surgery. He's on my soccer team. It was something stupid, like he ran into the back of someone and like went up on their shoulders, but nothing like not like anything crazy. Like he was running, someone was in front of him, he hit them and he just kind of like rode up them a bit and landed. But when he landed, it just snapped. And the dude after 9 months came back fitter than he was before. Like it was crazy to see him sprint faster, and I was like, what? Your Achilles was just torn 9 months
What
ago.
did you do?
All the he had it not surgically, sorry, he had it like you did.
Yeah.
But like he just went so ham on the rehab that even the surgeon was like, dude, it's not supposed to be this good.
We need a test study for you. Speaking of sports, I also want to make this pitch now while he's on the spot. He's got to come back next year. He's got to defend the title.
Oh yeah, you did.
Oh,
can't-
yeah,
you can't-
I haven't seen.
Yeah,
I've
can't
never
judge
seen your
it.
team,
Yeah.
dude.
You know what's funny? You people here are the only champions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's the champions.
You don't know we're talking about fantasy basketball.
Yeah, and we're gonna throw this into the boys' chat just to point it out. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude.
Yeah, it must feel nice at the top and looking down at all those peasants, and I'm looking at you.
the Denny zone is the only reason it's such a competitive league. It's
Yeah.
not about winning.
No, it's not.
Yeah, but how nice was it to get that money though?
No, yeah.
Well,
I got a bike rack out of it.
Yeah,
But like,
okay.
no, I don't know if Dax ever talked to you about it, but I was so anxious.
Dude,
Like,
I saw him
every
every
week.
Wednesday, literally every Wednesday.
I text him or something.
He was stressing.
Yeah, I was so stressed. I did it with a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a little brother from like the church, but he likes fantasy, so he would kind of just manage the team,
Right.
and then we would talk like, hey, like, should
Do
we
this.
make this pickup? Da da da. Kind of like a ownership, but some weeks I'd text him. Did you set the lines? Yeah. Okay. Text me on Sunday. And then, especially playoffs, like I couldn't do it, man.
Dude,
I
I
couldn't
know.
look.
I know, and it's so painful when it's like you won by a rebound, and then you're like, wait, but there's correction, so you have to wait till Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, man. I straight up, I won the league the first year out of fear of going into Denny's zone. Like, it wasn't this thing where I was like, yo, I need to make some money, show the boys I can know ball. I was just like, I'm not getting in the Denny's zone. And it propelled me to the greatest.
But I'll be honest with you, I was telling Dax, like, your team was the most Your team is the most disheartening to enter the league. Like, when you're coming into the league and you look through the teams, like, Dax's team is pretty good. Whoever the guy who has Giannis and Curry, like, that's pretty, it seems formidable, but then you look at yours initially, it's like,
I know.
how the heck are we supposed to win against him?
You only get to keep 3 though.
Yeah,
I know, but at the beginning of the
No,
who you drafted, right?
Well, but part of it has been the fact that, so the first year I had Giannis, DeRozan, and SGA, and somehow I turned that into Jokic, Giannis, and Ant, and then I traded Ant and Giannis for Tatum and Halliburton. So I've had this like crazy roll
of like trading,
but because I had those players that were so good, it made me, I think, more able to like free flow with when I was in the draft. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go for this guy because, like, I have Jokic, too. And then I end up getting him. So it's this thing of, like, my laxity because of who I got made me bid for a guy that, you know.
You can still win it, though. Like, goes to show. Like, you won it, though. You had $200. Yeah. Like, that's a lot in that league. Because we set, no, 200.
Oh.
We set it up, though, so that you have a tax, right? So that
it's a draft.
So that when we go in, we're hamstrung. Like, we actually have to like pick our spots who we choose. So it actually goes to show, like, Connor's team was so good this year, and his strategy was, I'm gonna keep Jalen Brunson, and then they're gonna have 2 $1 guys.
Yeah, but your team was so good, I can say it off the top of my head from the So just to give you some context, whoever's listening is a basketball fan. This man had Halliburton, Jokic, Embiid, Middleton, Holiday, Capella, like,
there's more.
Desmond Bane.
Desmond Bane. Like it's you look at this team and it's like, is he playing with like children?
Well, I must say, part of it, I think I'm very good at auction drafts.
No, you did.
You actually are so good.
I'm good at auction drafts more than I'm actually good at fantasy sports.
It honestly doesn't make any sense to me because I went in with the exact same amount of money as you, and I looked at my team and I'm like, Sabonis.
Sometimes I wonder if I think it has to do with my lack of knowledge to a degree. Like, I know enough to get like the big names, but as soon as it gets a little deeper, I might not put the like, oh, yo, this guy's good, but it's a little low key because I wouldn't know that. So I'm like, whoever I'm bidding on, they're probably gonna be like in the top 5 of every position.
And
or something.
the thing with the toss up with fantasy too is it's not even just skill level. Like your team was incredible, but then as soon as someone gets injured, you can't do anything about it, right? And you spend all right. And so, like, I ended up with Holiday and Capella at the end of the year.
You had to because
I know he panic dropped.
No, I have Denny Zone.
And they helped me win the title.
Well, I'm glad they did that for you because the Denny Zone was terrible.
Hey man, I was in there for 8 weeks. That's why I was freaking out with Dax the whole time.
You know what though? I wanted Sean to win so. No offense. I wanted Sean to win so badly because
year, right?
it would have shown how good the parity in our league is.
Yeah.
The guy ate at Denny's last year, and then he almost won this year.
Okay, this is leaving the category of draft or fantasy and just in sports in general. I always find it hilarious when someone's star player or their number 2 player goes out, and then everyone's like, their team's not even close to the team it was without their star player, and I'm like, yeah, like, Philly's not going to be the same team without Embiid. And then there's these people that say it like this, like, profound statement, and then all of a sudden Philly sucks. And I'm like, in what world do you lose your best player and then all of a sudden your team's just as good? Like, where does that come from? You know that?
Knicks.
Like that.
Yeah, did you see what the Knicks did today?
No.
Speaking of
The
sports, they traded Bogdanovich and 5 first-round draft picks for Mikal Bridges today.
What?
Yeah, so the Knicks have Mikal Bridges now. It's
Are
about
the-
to get crazy.
But
Are
that's
the Knicks in that position that they're going for?
I mean, I guess so, but it's gonna get crazy because this weekend, for the first time in like X amount of years, the NBA draft is tomorrow on Thursday,
Right.
and then the NHL draft is on Friday and Saturday, and then both free agencies open on Monday.
Oh my god, that's gonna be nuts. All the
Yeah.
chats are gonna be
Yeah.
holy.
I say the Knicks because they lost Randall and they were better.
Mm,
And I
okay,
always thought
okay.
Randall was the best guy on their team.
I always thought Randall was a bum, but it was just because I saw him. I was like, this guy looks like a bum. It had nothing. I'd never even watched him play, and I made my opinion.
This is his opinion on so many things.
Fair.
Like, for example, he hates Indiana, the Pacers,
Okay.
because he doesn't like the team for some reason.
No, the jerseys bore me.
Yeah, see?
Oh.
I'm more than willing to admit I have a lot of hot takes of opinions, and you're like, that's a terrible reason I don't like him. I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
He's like, the guy's mustache. It's
Sa-
not
Same thing
not
as
cloth.
New York Islanders. I hate their jersey colors, and therefore I can't stand that franchise.
Yeah.
It's like
Orange and blue, right? Same with the Knicks.
I guess, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
like the Knicks very much either. So, I don't know. I guess, is there anything else you guys really?
Yeah, I mean, we'll leave it to
Yeah.
our. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Before we're outta here.
Did we cover?
Yeah, no, I came in here just not expecting. I didn't really know what to expect, and that was really didn't think it was gonna take that long, but that was awesome, man.
Do you know
Yeah,
what's-
good.
This
You had a
talk
good
was
time.
fun
Good.
talking.
You know
Yeah.
what it is? I always find this because I noticed it for sure. Well, he's technically the second person we've had on as like a singular person, but I noticed it with Luke. Because Luke, you've met Luke.
Yeah.
Luke is like so outgoing and like
Yeah, he is.
very like flamboyant and not shy to talk.
Yeah.
But even at the start of his pod, you could kind of see him like trying to figure out what this is, and but as soon as you got flowing, it's just like having a conversation sitting down.
And there was you had good questions.
Yeah.
It was, you guys did great, man.
Well,
that was fun.
thank you for coming. We hope to have you back many times. You're
Yeah,
always
love
welcome
it.
back.
Would love to.
That's another edition of Three Person Circle with Derek and Dax. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye.